Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of the Little Wolf Knits Dye With Me series. It feels like I'm coming back to y'all so soon, and I kind of am. I recorded the last video at the beginning of September, and I didn't edit it and get it up until last weekend. So hopefully that speaks to how busy it has been around here. But just rewatching that makes it feel like I've just been talking to you, which is super fine with me. So I am back this week with the next colorway in our Geyser series. It'll be Geyser number 3, and I'm super, super excited about this one for a few reasons. One, it's the first time we're really pulling in some of like the greens into the Geyser colorways. There's been a lot of orange. Geyser number 1 had a lot of orange and blues and leaned heavily into the orange. Geyser number 2 leaned a little bit more into the blues, and now Geyser 3 is sticking with that really burnt orange, which you know is my jam, and a really deep, like, army green, olive green sort of play, which are also my jam. But it's going to be really interesting to see how these colors play together without getting super muddy and getting super Halloween, which I guess would be fine. It's October, but wanting this colorway to stay around and really excited about the possibility that these Geyser colorways could all go together really well into one project. So hoping that'll work out. Reason number 2 I'm really excited to be here is because I have a new toy to play with today. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that my dye steam cabinet arrived this week, and this is the first time that I'm actually using it to dye skeins. The other day I turned it on just like as a trial to make sure it would heat up and all of that, and I have, you could see, just 3 pans in there now. I need to be buying way more pans, but I'm already excited about how much this is going to change my dye game. Not necessarily like my colorways or my style of dyeing, but just make it easier to dye more in less time, which makes this whole process more enjoyable. So for instance, today I'm doing a pretty full dye day. This is something that typically would have taken maybe 4 hours or so without any sort of recording. I'm also creating 2 new colorways today, so that might have taken a little bit of extra time, but it's going really quick because I was able to set up all of my single burners and do like 4 pots at a time for tonals, and then 4 pans at a time for my variegated. So I'm super excited about this, curious to see how this is going to go, the timing of this. So this episode is probably going to lean a little bit more heavily into like dye equipment and how it works. Just for a little bit of information, this is the Metro C5 3 series. I'll flip this camera around so you can see the stats here. So this is what it looks like on the bottom. This is upside down because the doors are actually reversible, and so they came on this side, but I flipped them so it's easier to put trays into here from my workstation. This is what the bottom looks like. There's temperature settings here, a temperature reader. This one actually can proof and hold, which means with or without moisture. Right now, I have the moisture off. You can see, and it's on hold. So the only steam that's happening in these cabinets are coming from the liquid that I've put into these, which is technically what I do when I was just using my oven, but I'm not sure if that's what I should be doing, if I should be creating a little bit of steam, and what that would do to my speckling process. So we're gonna experiment, try it out, and see how it goes, and excited to have you along for the ride. So if you haven't watched any of my other videos, definitely pause this video, go right now and check them out, because there's a lot of stuff I do that I'm not going to cover in this one. Part of that is prep, prepping the yarn, prepping my pans, a little bit of information about basic color development, understanding color tones and how that impacts the colorway, and my process of materials, all of that. So I'm going to leave the little doobly-doo up here and leave the playlist of my other Dye With Me videos. So definitely go check those out first and then come back. Okay, are you back? So this is the color inspiration we have for Geyser number 3. I'm super excited about this one, like I said, and I also think it's going to be a really big challenge. So let's see if we can make this happen in one go. And if not, hey, we'll learn, right? So this one, if you look at this inspiration photo, like I said, you can see that there are a few different shades of green in here. One is a little bit more army, leans more like yellow, orange. One is a little bit deeper of like a mossy sort of green, maybe even leaning forest kind of green. And so pulling from those are two shades I definitely want to include on the skein. There's some silver gray tones that I'm seeing throughout that I think could be a nice color to add just a little bit of dimension between those two greens, and then leaning into the really deep pop of that rusted orange. And I want to make sure I keep that to one color because of the way that's going to balance out on the skein. I want that to seem like a pop of color and a contrast. So one thing that I do that I think I've talked a little bit about in here before, but never got too in depth, is that a lot of times when I have colors that I am creating, new colorways, and I'm looking at the inspiration photos, I, in my mind, have previous colorways, a lot of times tonals, sometimes variegateds, that remind me of the type of color I'm going for, and I use that as a base. So for instance, that really rusted orange, I'm like, okay, this reminds me a little bit of my rusted spokes colorway, maybe a little bit less red. So let me look at that formula for that tonal. Think about maybe cutting it down to a quarter or a fifth, right? Because I'm adding 4 or 5 containers worth of color onto this tray. And thinking about how do I tweak it just a little bit as a starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with rusted spokes and show you what I mean here. Okay. This is looking perfect. And I think I'm going to flip around and show you what I did and have all 4 of the colors together. I think I need to stop saying that I don't like green. Maybe I find it challenging. No, I don't know. I think there are some greens I don't like, and most greens I do like. Apparently, I'm learning this the hard way, because even when I think about some of my favorite colorways, Grand Teton, Geyser National Park, army pants and flip-flops, like there are a lot of greens that I really lean into and really, really love, and I think this color is going to be one of them. So let me show you what we're working with. Here are the, if I could, there you go, the 4 colors that I came up with here. So we have that really, really burnt orange, this lighter green that you see if you look back in the inspiration photo. There's like a grassy green I wanted to pull out. This darker sort of foresty green that I think really pulls in the trees that are in the photo, and then that silvery gray, and I'm so excited to pour these on and see what we come up with. Speckles, I'm not there yet. If you know, you know. Speckles, wait till the end, because that's like the icing on top of a new colorway, right? Like, you don't want to pick out your icing and your cake toppings before you know what the cake's gonna taste like. Right? Am I right? We'll see. Okay. This is good. It feels funny when I say that, and I don't say that to be conceited, But to say that I'm really, really excited this is turning out the way I wanted it to turn out. I think the way to avoid the pumpkin-y looking orange and green that I was thinking about is going really deep with the burnt orange, is exactly what I did. And the dimensionality of the green is perfect. I'm thinking speckles. I think we add even more green into some of these areas with some speckles to really give it more dimension. And that's just going to make it pop. I'm so excited about this one. So I ended up going with a few different layers of green speckles, and I think it does exactly what I wanted to. Pulls out the dimensionality of the green, really lets you see all the different colors that went into these colorways, because the lighter green is 2 parts green, 1 part orange. The darker green is 2 parts the same green, 1 part black, I think, off the top of my head. And then a few different green speckles are just making that pop. So, go ahead and throw this into the steam cabinet. I don't know how long. I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes and come check on it. Actually, I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes because that's what I would do on the burner. It seems like the temperature in here is just now getting up to where I would put it in the oven. So it definitely takes a lot of time to heat up, which probably is not worth doing if I'm only doing a few pans. So I'm glad I learned that. But I'm going to pop it in, check on it in 20 minutes, see how much the speckles feel like they're absorbed or if they're still running. I'll take you along on that process. And then flip it, speckle the other side. Okay, I just came back downstairs. It was actually about 30 minutes because I was eating dinner when the alarm went off, but I just took the pan out of the steam cabinet. I'm going to flip the camera around and show you how I check my speckles, or at least how I'm planning on checking my speckles this time around. We'll see if it works. So typically what I do is just sort of press into the speckles and see what happens. If it looks like the water is coming up clear, the speckles are good. Sometimes the water doesn't come up clear because the dye is not fully absorbed. But these are looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and flip around this skein. You can see it's not really running too much when I'm pressing on it. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these around, speckle the other side, and throw it back into the oven for another 30 minutes.